7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. Our unique team helps small businesses grow by providing essential marketing expertise.
Hello, and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. My name is Bill with W. Palmetier Photography,
I'm Justin with Justin Kerr Design.
And I'm Alicia with the Spark Social.
and together we make up.
The
Marketing Essentials team.
So today, what are we going to be talking about today?
Today we are going to be talking about, in two parts.
Two-part harmony or two-part?
Well, yeah, we can do it in two-part harmony, but I don't think anybody would want to listen. No, we're doing a two-part episode right now talking about marketing your business using a podcast like we do.
Whoa. We're talking about
Podcasts?
podcasts on our podcast.
Whoa, mind blown. Podcast of a podcast.
Yeah.
Podcastception.
There you go.
Podception.
Podception, I like that.
That's going to be the title for this
Let me write that down.
group, Podception.
So I think to just get everybody on the same page, we should start off with defining what is a podcast.
True.
Yeah, because that can be a pretty broad term depending on
Right.
what you're doing. Podcasts can come out for a number of reasons. One could be purely informational.
Mm-hmm.
One can be for entertainment purposes, or a combination of the two,
Like ours,
like ours, which is
which is
hopefully
both entertaining and educational.
We got the whole package.
That's right.
we have
Now,
the whole package, baby.
It's originally podcasts were audio only.
Correct.
I think
Right.
iTunes maybe set the pace there for that.
Yeah, I would say so.
yeah, which is why they're called podcasts
Podcasts.
because it was
On your pod.
something you
The
can listen
iPod.
to on your iPod.
Okay.
It's funny how these things get named. It's like Kleenex and
Just gonna
Q-tips
say
and
that.
yeah.
Q-tips, yeah.
So audio only, but then over time they evolved into what was a video blog,
Which they
then
call
became a
vlogs, yeah.
video podcast.
Correct.
So you can have an audio only podcast, or you can have a video based podcast.
It can be pretty much any flavor you want. There are podcasts out there for everything.
Everything,
Yeah.
right?
Even things that you wouldn't necessarily want to know.
Yeah,
about.
like the Ron Burgundy podcast.
Ron Burgundy.
So
yeah.
now I hear a podcast being advertised on the radio.
Yeah.
Right,
And,
right.
and podcasts are hot right now.
They are.
Yes, so that leads to our next point. Why podcast?
Yeah, because they're hot. I mean, even iTunes is getting on. Not iTunes. Duh. iTunes has always been on board. I meant to say our iHeartRadio.
Oh, yeah.
Has just started their
Yeah.
whole podcast
Well,
package.
there's so many different platforms on which you can listen to podcasts. I mean, Apple Podcasts is probably the most,
Yep.
has sort of the lion's share.
Then
But
you've got Google Play, you've got Podbean, you've got you can use one for Stitcher,
right? You can even listen
Spotify.
to them. Yep, you can listen to them directly through Patreon, which is a platform for sponsoring podcasts.
Yeah, it's like a crowdfunding.
So there's no shortage on where you can listen to them. And I just pulled
No.
up this quick stat. I haven't even dug into the stats about podcasting, but it's saying 44% of Americans are listening or have listened to podcasts. And that
Right.
stat is only going to go up. So you have about half of Americans tuning in to get information, education, and they get to pick. They're in control.
Yeah,
Right.
And that tells a lot because people are going away from the traditional newscasts, and they're using podcasts more and more to get their news too. So
Right.
not just information as far as how do you do something, but also there's a lot of political podcasts out there. There are a lot of
Sports podcasts.
news, sports.
All right, real quick, not a huge sidetrack, but real quick, give me your two favorite podcasts that you listen to.
The Marketing Essentials podcast.
Oh, that's shameless. Other than ours, because you have to listen to ours to edit it.
Oh, yeah, that's
What are
right,
the
I
other
do, don't I?
two other ones that you listen to?
I like the National Geographic's podcast.
Okay.
Partially because they do a lot about photography. NPR. I
And
like they
which
have
one on NPR?
They have how it's I forget the name of it now. You
How
make
It's
me look-
Made?
No, not how it's made. It's basically they interview. I'll put it in the notes, but they interview business leaders who have started businesses and been very successful. And why can I not remember the name of it?
I listen to mostly marketing ones. Sorry not to cut you off while you're looking,
What is
Bill.
I'll
your
look while you're
favorite?
doing that.
But I
Alicia?
like Social Media Examiner, and then I also listen to John Dumas has a podcast, and I listen to one on sales actually, it's called The Sales Lion, and that one is Marcus Sheridan, I believe, who also works for a marketing company, and Amy Potterfield has a good one. But basically anything about social media, you can bend my ear. on a podcast, I'll tune in. And then if it's good, I'll stay.
Interestingly enough, I don't have a lot of podcasts that are specific to my area of expertise. So I don't listen to a lot of branding podcasts. I do like podcasts that are based on storytelling, though. So I have one that I've been listening to recently from an organization called Wondery, which is a limited 6-part podcast series on sort of the inside scoop on how Star Wars came to be.
Yeah, you could be hooked on that one. That was pretty cool.
So it was the whole history of George Lucas and how the story came to be. I find those fascinating, and I've listened. Of course, This American Life is another one that's great.
That's through NPR, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great one. They just have story after story. So I really like story-based ones. Another one that I listen to through Wondery is called American Innovators, which is the history of different innovators in science and technology.
I found it. I found the one I was looking for.
Okay, what's it called?
It's called How I Built This.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one?
I actually have heard of that one, yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's basically they talk to people that have built businesses and talk to them about how they got there. So
Yeah.
kind of
That's
interesting.
cool. That is cool. I'd like to pick that up.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. We'll put the links for all of our favorites in the podcast notes.
So one of the benefits of marketing your business through podcasting is that podcasts are extremely portable.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you can listen to them in a lot of different places. And you can also multitask, so if you're out walking the dog or running on the treadmill or whatever, you can listen to a podcast, right? Whereas, if you're other forms, like if you're binge watching Netflix, you probably, you really got to
two
focus.
senses involved. You have listening and sight.
Well, you bring up a
Right.
good point. That's the distinction between doing a video podcast and a audio podcast.
right.
There's good points and bad points to both. Like you said, with audio podcasts, it's portable. You can listen to it in the car. You can listen to it,
Right.
where
And
pretty much
listen
anywhere
to
you
it,
want to go.
as Alicia said, on your timing.
Exactly.
Whereas
Whereas-
like when we were kids, it's like your favorite show, it's on a certain day
At a
at
certain
a certain time, and if you're not there
Yeah,
in
you're
front of
out
the
of
TV,
luck.
you missed it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then my era had VCRs. We'd literally record over our first birthday party to tape Dawson's Creek or something if you had to be out of the house.
So-
Remember
so-
that, having to record
Oh, yeah.
it? Oh my God.
Oh yeah. And then they came along with DVRs where you could set it up and it would record
TiVo.
your favorite. Yeah, you record your favorite show, but then you'd get so behind. You're like, oh my God, we have to watch 30 hours of this because
that's where I'm at right now. I've got some shows saved on DVR that we've had the new DVR box for about 3 months now. I've set a bunch of things to record, haven't looked back at them since.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's
I'm afraid to
just
look.
it's indicative of the consumer market. We want things on our time,
Yeah.
and we want them now. We want our own schedule,
So-
even with our food, our right, our
Yep.
food, our
Yep.
information, our TV, and so podcasts are here to stay.
Yeah. Now, there are pros and cons to both. So obviously, the portability is a good thing to the audio part of it. You also have to think about what you're trying to convey. Some versions, like the video version, will convey itself better to somebody who's in a visual media. Not to say you can't, because obviously what we talk about every day or every week is visual media, and we still manage to make it work with audio. But when we originally started this podcast, we thought, hey, it would be a good idea to be able to show the video by doing a video podcast.
right.
It's a lot more work to it, but it allows you to show those visuals.
Right. And I think you have to consider that when you're setting up
Absolutely.
for your podcast to say, okay, is this a format that is going to benefit from having video, or can we get by with audio only? Because audio only it's
lot
easier to
easier.
produce,
Oh,
Edit.
absolutely.
easier
a
to
ton
edit.
easier.
Yeah. But there are some formats that, lend themselves really well to video.
Yeah.
They're very visual, and you benefit from that. It is
Yeah.
a lot more work, though.
That's why I have trouble when somebody says, well, what's your favorite podcast? I listen to a lot of video casts. So for me, it's I can
You watch them, or just
Yeah,
or you just,
I'll
or you
watch them.
just listen to them?
I'll watch and
Will you
listen.
have them open in the background on your browser?
Yeah,
or-
what I tend to do is I'll have them running while I'm doing something else, and if they're talking about something that I need to see visually, I'll stop what I'm doing and look at it. But it can be distracting at points. So,
Yeah.
but you have to be disciplined enough to go, okay, I've seen that part. Now I just listen while I'm doing the next part.
Well, if you have and so that brings a good point. You just have to plan in advance. If you have a very visual topic that you're going to need video for, then you need
Yeah.
to incorporate that
Or
component
would
from the start.
the other thing you can do is also what we've done, or the direction we've kind of gone at this point, is if there's something that's very lends itself to having video, you do that as an add-on extra to go with an add-on extra. Good, Bill.
No, we did
An
that with
extra
Taylor
to-
Box.
Yeah,
where
like we do with Taylor Box. Yeah,
They had brought in
Very
some
visual.
really nice samples, and we did a separate
So-
segment
yeah,
that
exactly.
was video only.
So that's the way around it, because here's the other problem. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit trail, but when you're doing video, it's a lot harder to edit out the ums and the ahs and the ohs.
Right, because you can't move people's mouths
No,
for
you
that.
can't. and the reality is, everybody, I don't, unless you're a professional speaker, everybody has some sort of idiosyncrasy when they're talking, whether it's or and.
Or even pausing in video, even if you pause, like if we have to take a break because something goes wrong,
Yeah,
to stop and pause in video, you could get that like fragmented like cut.
Exactly.
So things to consider, definitely.
So
Right.
anyway,
So some of the benefits of using podcasts to market your business, we already talked about the fact that podcasts
fast
are
growing
a fast-growing trend.
for purpose.
You can repurpose the content on many different channels.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Well, like for ours, we put this up on iTunes, we put it on Google Play, and we also put it up on YouTube, as well as our own website, right? So that's 4 different channels where you can put this content.
Social media, we share the YouTube link there.
True, yeah.
So in a
Right.
way, that's repurposing it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of ways to bring people into this content,
Yeah.
and you're not limited to just one platform,
Yeah.
right? So there's that benefit. Also, it's a great platform for collaboration. So,
Collaboration with other peoples outside your business, is that what you're getting to?
well,
or-
that's I think the most obvious one, because we have guests on this podcast
Very often.
to expand our appeal.
Sure.
Like we've had multiple times, we've had Bob Salvis on, and he's talked about email marketing and direct mail marketing, and then most recently talked about promotional products. Now, that's not something that any of us are an expert on, but we can bring on an expert, and it expands our appeal because we can offer up things that normally just the 3 of us wouldn't be able to talk about.
Yeah.
And you make up a great point as far as that is when you're doing guests on an audio podcast, it's a lot easier, even if it's on a remote where you can't have them directly in front of you.
Yeah, we've done that too.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder to do that via video because now you're dealing with Skype and getting a good signal and
Right.
all kinds of tough stuff
Right.
that can go on as far as doing the video end of it. So again, another good reason for doing audio.
So you're bringing people on, and it allows you to kind of open up your scope of topic. It positions you as an expert, first of all, but then
Good
it
point.
allows you to feature other experts and kind of have that high level.
That's the point we
discussion.
didn't mention. Yeah, it does. When you're doing a podcast, people start listening to you for a long period of time, and they do take you as an expert at that point.
Sure.
So that's a good way to
Absolutely.
build up your expertise.
It's a lot of credibility for your brand too.
Yeah, no,
So-
you're right. It is. 'Cause
So you may be viewed as an expert out in the field, but now you have a podcast, and so people are thinking, in my opinion anyway, when I hear that someone has a podcast, it's like, wow, they have enough expertise, enough experience to talk about in length these topics. So it really builds credibility to
Right.
their brand.
So another benefit to podcasting is that it can be a good alternative to long form writing. So rather than producing a 500 to 800 word article, you can do a podcast.
Yeah.
It can be a 15-minute podcast. It doesn't have to be any particular length. I mean, we've found that 30 minutes seems to be the sweet spot for what we're doing. But I've heard podcasts as short as 15 minutes.
Yeah, I've even seen even shorter than that in some cases. But
Right.
you're right. It really depends on your audience. Are you trying to get quick bits of information out to them, or do you have something that's a little bit bigger? And if you're somebody like me who doesn't like to write to begin with, this is the prime place to do it, to talk about things.
And so if you do a podcast, here's a neat little trick. You can then transcribe the podcast and post that as an article.
Yeah.
Right? So you get a dual purpose out of it.
Yeah, we just recently have started trying to do that for our website.
Yeah, some of our episodes have transcriptions with them. We're kind of testing it out to see if we can get some traction with it on our SEO. Because I do know Google likes to see fresh content, and every time we put up a new podcast, we can put that transcription in there. That's indexable content that Google sees. But we're waiting to see if it moves the needle for us.
And like you said, because you can do it in 30 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, the content is easily digestible. It can be, boom, you get it, move on to the next one.
Right, and I think that's where we landed on 30 minutes because we originally started out, we were doing 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah,
Then
had
we
some
get
that-
really long.
We had some that
winded.
went way over.
Yeah, so it showed us a couple of things. One is the 30 minutes was bite-sized enough so people could listen to a podcast episode in one sitting or one
Drive or whatever it happens.
Right.
Yeah.
if you're driving to work or whatever.
Because
That's
everything in Rhode Island is less than 30 minutes or less. And if
That's
it's
right.
more, you don't go.
I thought you were going to say if it's more than 30 minutes, it's free, but
No.
we don't charge for our podcast anyway. But,
So it's free anyway.
right.
But yeah, and then I just think people's attention spans are short. So you want to kind of like err on the side of like giving them enough, but not droning on and on and on and on and
I'm sorry,
on
what?
and on. Yeah, exactly.
Well, 30
Right?
minutes was
You knew that was
bite-sized,
coming.
but it also made us focus and keep our content, clear and crisp.
Yeah,
It's like we
because
got 30
we-
minutes, we got to get this
Because
in.
we are known for bunny trails if we give our chance.
That is true. So
Which
moving
they are
on.
very interesting, but maybe not as relevant to our listeners.
Agreed.
Right. So like you said, moving on.
Moving on. So another benefit of podcasting that we found anyway is it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have a blast with each other. We truly
Yeah.
enjoy.
Speak for yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
At least has been
and I-
hating this from day one.
Justin and I truly enjoy
No.
each other.
Yes.
We love it. Like you have, and that's a good point. If you're going to have guests on, if you're going to have co-hosts, you have to vibe well. We even came up with a pre-vet form for our guests because we wanted to make sure that they were on the same page with us.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of meet with them or know them or they've been referred to us because you want to have that vibe.
Exactly.
Sometimes we can be accused of having too much fun. We were just
well,
talking off air
yeah.
about the fact that there was one podcast not too long ago that I had to cut out 20 minutes worth of laughing because we just got into this huge laughing fit.
I
halfway
blame
through.
that completely on Nicole.
And we were completely sober.
Yeah, we were. We
It's
hadn't had
true.
a drink that day.
It's true.
It was just literally like this giggle fit, but I mean, we had fun. So
No,
that's
we
the
do
big
have
thing.
fun. You know what? I think that translates across the content. If we have fun doing this and we're putting out good content, then people are going to have fun listening to
Oh,
it.
yeah. And I like the next point you have here is it builds credibility.
Yeah, and it's also great for networking.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped that one, didn't I?
No, that's fine. No, I mean both of them together.
together,
So it does build credibility. People do come to see you, as Alicia said, as an expert, and it's a
funny.
great networking tool.
Yeah, it's just actually starting. Well, I guess it's been happening for a little while now. That I will go to a networking event and be like, "Oh, you're part of that podcast."
Right, right. Not that we're looking to be, rock stars or anything.
Oh,
But
come on, I want the paparazzi coming after me. Come
Yeah,
on,
well, you'd have
I just
to-
want to be an Instagram star. Is that so much to
I
ask?
want
I don't know. I think that's a fine goal.
to. You go for it.
Yeah.
How's your Instagram following now?
I don't know. I think my dog has more followers.
Maybe you should have your dog on the podcast.
It's the all olive show all of the time.
The dog of
Please, again with the puns.
All of the
We're
time.
moving on. So those
My
are some
dog's
of
name
the
is Olive, just in case you're wondering.
some of the benefits of podcasting.
I do it without even
Using
trying.
podcasts to market your business. I'm just going to plow right through.
I'm getting the evil eye from Justin. That's okay.
So now over to some of the
I'll live.
challenges, because
It's not all fun and games, people.
no, there are some challenges to this, like
Oh, Bill
working
makes
with
it
people who
sound like it's all
cannot
fun
keep
and
it
games.
together.
Yeah. you do have challenges. So working with kids and animals is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, we
Or
don't
Bill.
work with kids or animals.
Bill.
We work with Bill.
Enough said.
Well,
Go ahead.
All right, so
pull this
it-
one out. Go ahead.
it-
I want to see it.
one of the challenges is this is a lot of work. So
Oh, yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not just coming in and recording an episode.
We get up at the crack of dawn.
For Alicia, it's a crack
We
of
walk
dawn.
Right.
5 miles in the snow
Uphill both ways.
to set up our podcast, people.
Seriously though, it is the recording, and then of course Bill has to edit the episode.
Well, don't forget also the prep work that goes into the beginning of it.
Yeah.
That's true.
We talk at least once a week just to go over different,
Right, weekly
Topics.
strategy
Topics.
meetings.
Yeah.
Yep.
possible interviewees.
Mhm.
Whole nine yards. There's a lot to it.
Oh yeah, no, I actually did a time track not too long ago, and of course we all own our own individual businesses.
Yes.
But I wanted to see how much time was going into this, just for my own data, and it's between 4 and 5 hours per week.
Which is about similar to what I have.
Right, and we're sharing the load.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 3 ways. Yeah.
Now we do a lot. We do marketing. We do I know you're very meticulous about the editing and the production work, and I'm pretty meticulous about the the
slides
branding and
we get,
stuff.
yeah.
So altogether that's we'd say between 12 and 15 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
So just know up front that it is a lot of work. Now it
Does
Yeah.
can
that
be less
include
if
the
you're.
recording time too?
What's that?
Does that include
For me,
the?
it does. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Recording?
include everything.
Okay. Because
So,
we
I mean-
spend a whole day. Sorry, Bill.
No.
To record too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you want to do a podcast, it's going to take time and effort.
Treat it like a business.
Especially if you want to do it on a weekly basis, which is what they they suggest for the most part. You should be doing at least once a
Yeah,
week.
Good point.
with anything, whether you're blogging or podcasting, whatever, you want to be frequent and consistent.
Correct.
Yeah, if you think you're going to do a podcast once a quarter, forget it, or once a month.
No one's.
You're not going to
hear
get
it.
enough traction for anybody
Right.
to listen to you. You know.
And then you want to make sure that people know about it. So you want your marketing to be on cue to let people know, hey, there's a podcast and here's what it's about, and you should listen to it.
And then the other thing is, okay, let's say you get that nailed down. You know it's going to take you some time to do. The next thing is you got to have the technical know-how how to do it.
We
That's
have
true.
Bill.
We have Bill. And to be honest, when we started, we had a little bit of know-how,
Yeah,
but we've learned a lot.
Oh my gosh!
on the
I
fly.
wish I
Trial
could
by
tell you.
fire.
I wish I could tell you the
Fire
hours
by
of learning
fire.
I've put in just trying to figure out how to operating a soundboard and how to record properly, how to edit sound. Just that time alone is just mind-boggling. You know, it's
Oh
crazy.
yeah. But I mean, we've learned a lot, so you're always adding to your knowledge base and to your expertise. So that's great, and we've gotten much better, I think, at interviewing guests as well as just being comfortable doing this.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I still kind of cringe when I listen to some of the early ones we did because we were still learning. You know.
Yeah, we were. And when people say, "Oh, you have a podcast," I'm like, "Absolutely!
Start
Start
at
listening
5.
at episode 5. Do not listen to anything before
Oh
that."
boy.
No, actually, I think episode 1 or 2 is like still amongst our top ones, surprisingly.
Yeah, that's
Surprising
amazing.
to you?
That's an amazing stat.
Yeah, I mean, but anyway, moving on.
So there's the technical know-how. There's the equipment, having the right equipment.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's a learning curve because we made the mistake early on of purchasing the cheapest equipment we could get our hands on.
And we end up having to repurchase, which cost us more.
Yes, so learn from our mistakes and don't buy
So
cheap.
yeah,
So
don't
we
buy
use,
cheap.
what are these mics? Audio Technica.
Audio Technica.
I like them.
Yeah, they're good, dependable, bang
Yeah.
around type of microphones.
And they're not exorbitant price
No,
wise.
I think they were about $100 a piece, something like that.
yeah. So but they're solid. You
Yeah.
know?
And now bear in mind, we're talking about equipment here, but you really need to tailor the equipment to the type of podcast you're going to do.
This is true.
If there's only one of you, you don't have to go elaborate like we have with a soundboard and with
An intern.
an intern and you can do it with a
Laptop and a mic.
a laptop and a good USB mic.
Yep.
Sure.
So yeah, I just wanted to make that distinction. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's good.
No, it's definitely, and I think we did an episode where you talked about the equipment requirements and had some recommendations for.
I don't, was it that or was it we did that for one of our live challenges? I can't remember now.
No, well, we definitely do equipment recommendations for the Facebook Live challenge,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure we did an episode. I'd have to go back
We'll
and
have
look.
to go back and look at the numbers, but yeah.
Um,
If so, we'll put a link to it in the the show
absolutely.
notes.
So
Okay, so-
another consideration or challenge if you don't have that.
Okay, so we're getting low on time here for the rest of this
all
one.
right. So
but
content strategy.
content
Like
strategy.
you talked about it's like we don't just sit down and start yakking. We actually
No.
plan out our content and we develop talking points so that we can stay on target.
And we've actually fine-tuned that as time has gone on.
Correct.
You know, our original setup on how we did that is very different than what we do now.
Yeah.
True.
Because we've learned along the way, and I think that's the biggest key I would take out of the challenges is you need to be willing to constantly be learning.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, you're going to stay right where you are from day one.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And as far as content goes, I'd say, if you want to market your business through podcasting, talk about what you know,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Talk about something you're passionate about and plan it out, Give yourself some bullet points.
Yeah, not a script.
Not a script,
Because
no,
that can
no,
sound
just some
too
bullet
forced.
points.
but-
Yeah.
Your content almost goes back to your brand and your why, and well, your passion is tied into that and your expertise. But if you don't have that why behind your podcast, your content's probably going to seem very watered down, maybe.
Yep. I would also, under the content strategy standpoint, also say we get this suggestion early on: bring on guests, because after a while, there's only so far you
Fresh
can go with
content,
just your
yeah.
own voice.
Right.
People will get tired of hearing you after a while. Bring somebody on, and maybe somebody that does a similar type of business as you, or something that complements your business in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
But definitely work on a regular basis
Right.
trying to get.
Well, I
People
talked
come
with, done a marketing strategy session with this owner of a travel booking business. And they were considering writing a blog. And I said, you should really think about just doing some Facebook Lives, similar to a podcast, right? And I told them, I said, you should really bring some people on and partner with other people in similar industries. So they were booking some travel to local wineries. And I said, get the owners of the wineries on
Yeah,
and interview
absolutely.
them. Do a short little 5 or 10 minute interview And that way you're promoting their business, they're promoting yours.
Exactly.
And it's far more interesting because now you're going to grab the attention of the people that maybe they weren't considering taking booking a trip to a winery, but after they hear this interview, they think, ooh, that sounds really fun.
Worth a
Let's
try,
do
yeah.
that.
So the content can be a challenge, but other challenges.
Growing your listenership. That's always a struggle for any podcast right off the bat.
Yeah.
If you're not a known quantity when you first start a podcast, you got to realize that it's going to take a lot of time to get people to know who you are, trust you, and start listening on a regular basis.
Right.
I think there's a common misconception that people think if I build it, they
Yeah.
will come.
Yep.
If I record it, they may not listen. You have to put it out there. You have to market it. Just because it's on Apple Podcasts doesn't mean you show up in all those search results.
Oh my
No.
goodness, no.
Not at all.
It's very difficult to, sort of come to the top.
Which leads you to the next point, which is analytics, trying to figure out, once you start the podcast, what is the best way
Right.
to track it?
Well,
We're still learning.
We're still trying to figure
we're
that
still
out.
learning, but you have to measure because if
Yeah.
you don't measure, you don't know if you're being successful.
Exactly.
So you have different things to consider. So with analytics, I think maybe the listeners aren't clear about, but on YouTube, you have certain metrics that you can look at. On iTunes, it's a little bit limited, to be
Yeah,
honest.
iTunes is horrible. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
And then you also have, if you have your podcast hosted on your website, you can look at the analytics, the traffic on your website. What pages are they going to? So that's also something to consider. What other
and
analytics?
get them all together. You have that. You have Google My Business if you're dealing with a business website, because that'll also track what's coming to that website, and why they're coming, where they're coming from.
Right.
So
Does Stitcher give you, or Patreon? or
I
any
believe
of
they give you
those?
all limited analytics. I think that's my biggest complaint right now is there's no one clearinghouse that says, here's all the analytics for your podcast. It's just not that easy.
And the data can be conflicting at times or not clear.
Yes, can be very unclear. So yeah, you just got to plug away at it. Just keep going and realize that the analytics may not always be there and may not always tell you exactly what you get.
So analytics, we're talking about things like number of listeners,
Where they're listening
time.
from, how
Yep.
much time they listen, all that stuff. So, and it's funny because sometimes you'll see the analytics one way and somebody will say, oh yeah, I listen to the podcast all the time.
And it's not showing
And
up
it's
in
not
the
showing
numbers.
on the notes. So I got to believe the notes are off a little bit. See that, or a lot of people don't tell the truth about the fact that they actually listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, I listen to you all the time.
Yeah.
And they're lying
Like
to
every
us.
day of the week, yes.
Oh,
Right.
really?
I listen to you twice a week. Well, that's funny because we
Well,
only
I-
publish once a week. So that brings us to the last
The final
part,
one,
is
yep.
how to let people know that you're there, and that's marketing. So
Yeah.
if you're going to have a podcast and put all this time and effort into it, you need to market it. You need to let
Exactly.
people know that you're there.
I think we've been on a shoestring budget, to be honest. I mean, we don't do much paid promotion. We've done some co-sponsored events. We post on social media. We have our awesome website, thanks to Justin, and we're not SEO experts. We're not trying. We try to make the website user friendly and have content, but we're not really playing the SEO game.
Yeah.
We don't have a paid budget, to be honest, and so we've done almost grassroots marketing
Yeah,
by
a lot of word of
Yeah,
mouth.
very, very organic, yeah.
networking,
Yep.
networking online, even doing the Facebook group thing, stuff like that.
Plus our LinkedIn pages, our own.
Yes.
And I think the Facebook group has been very, very beneficial for
Oh, yeah.
us.
So you have to be willing to have multiple facets to get out the word on your podcast.
Yes.
It's not just Facebook ads or even just Facebook itself. It may be LinkedIn and Facebook, YouTube. You're throwing it all over the place because
But-
you want to get out there.
Nothing can replace face-to-face marketing.
Agreed.
You know,
I mean,
going-
how many cards have we built? Have you made up for the
We've
podcast?
probably gone through 2,000 cards.
Yeah.
Business cards, but it's,
Yeah.
still the best way to market yourself is to talk to somebody personally about it and say, hey, and I tell people when I'm corresponding with them either on social media or over email, it's like, hey, have you checked out the podcast?
Yeah.
And here's an episode that you might find interesting.
Yeah.
And I would love to know what you think of it. So you're giving them something of value and you're asking for their input.
Yep.
And I think that makes it much more likely that they'll go and listen to it and say, oh, well, hey, I really like that, or
Not my thing.
not my thing, which is fine because we're not expecting this is going to appeal to everybody. I mean, when we set this up, we said, look, let's form our mission statement. Who's our audience? And we decided that, small business owners, entrepreneurs who are already DIYing their marketing, but wanted to get some expertise help, that's
there.
what we're here for. We're here to give away that.
Speaking about what we're here for, are we just teasing it this time, or are we going to actually talk about why we're talking about podcasts?
Yeah, so I think we've given our listeners a lot to consider. If you've thought about starting a podcast, right, there's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of pros.
Yeah, and we're going to go,
But-
in our next podcast, we are going to go over the benefits of,
Oh, not the benefits.
sorry,
We've
I'm saying
covered
benefits. I already said that part. Duh.
The next part 2 is the misunderstandings
and tips to do properly.
Yeah,
Right.
so we'll give you some more tips. However, I think that's where you were leading up to, Bill. If you're really looking to get this thing going, the podcast, you want your own
Yes,
podcast,
yes.
right? What can you do, Bill?
Well,
You
it's
can
fun-
do it yourself.
you
That's
could-
one option.
You could start yourself and try to learn by reinventing the wheel, which is always fun. Some of us like doing that. No names. But anyway, you can either do that, or we have an incredible package that you could be a part of, so to speak. You can
Right.
join
So we decided that it would be a good idea to offer our services, since we've learned so much, especially from our mistakes, and offer a package to anyone who's looking to start their own podcast and help them with either production and recording and editing, or with marketing, or with branding. Those are the 3 areas that we feel are sort of
Yes.
the legs of the stool, if you will, of having a successful podcast.
Yes, and now bear in mind that's after you've already recorded the original audio.
So basically, all they have to do is show up, record, and we take it from there.
Correct.
Right.
Now, for those of you who have listened to this podcast for a while, we don't typically come on and talk about what we're trying to sell to people. But we feel strongly enough about this that we want to give people the opportunity that have been on the fence, so to speak, as far as doing podcasts. Give them the opportunity to get a little bit of a help.
A lot of help.
A lot of help.
Save time,
Yeah.
So Justin said, we each spend hours a week on this, and you're getting a team of 3 people to really just do all the behind the scenes work for you.
Yes. But we're not going to give you the price because we want you to go to our website and check it out.
Which is?
Well, if you go to our website, which is marketingessentialsteam.com,
Yes.
right at the top in the menu, you'll see an item called Podcast Services. And that page will give you some of the details of what we're offering. So we have 3 packages right now. We have a pro audio package, which is after you've recorded,
Just strictly editing of the audio.
editing, right, and making it sound professional and making it sound good. And we also have a branding package so that you can brand your podcast, which is very important. And we've talked about branding on this podcast before. And we have a pro marketing package. So it's let people know that you're out there
Yes.
and bring in those listeners. So we offer those 3 as individual packages, but we also have a bundle that if
That's
you
discounted.
decide to take advantage of all 3, we can give you a special discounted price for bundling those
Yes.
together.
And let's also be clear that this is enough to get you started for your first, if you're doing a weekly podcast, it's enough to get you started for your first 4 podcasts. And then beyond that, we can obviously do all the cards.
We offer some services beyond that, but this is to help you launch that podcast and get it off the ground and have us handle a lot of those nuts and bolts things that if you could do it on your own, but it is a lot of time and effort. And for small business owners and entrepreneurs that would prefer to let someone else sort of drive the bus a little bit and help them get this thing off the ground.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I just realized it was a horrible metaphor because you don't really get a bus off the ground because if
No.
that's a bad thing, right?
No.
That's, yeah.
That would be speed.
That would be speed, yeah. Don't go below,
Below
55 miles
yeah.
an hour.
Wasn't there some magical flying school bus? I don't know.
Oh, the magic school bus.
Yeah. Oh, the
Was it
magic
Mrs.
school bus.
Frizzle?
Was it fun?
Yeah, Miss Frizzle, yeah.
There was, yeah. All
Well,
right.
anyway, if you
Yeah.
need to get this
Say
thing
goodnight,
off,
Justin.
So if you'd like to take advantage of the podcast services that we're offering, just go to our website, marketingessentialsteam.com, and check out the page Podcast Services,
Awesome. So be on the lookout for next week, the part 2 of this podcast.
where we're going to talk about myths and misunderstandings as well as give you some tips
To go
on
forward.
how to market your business through podcasting.
Absolutely. And until next time,
We're done for now.
See ya.
Bye.
thank you for joining us today. And as always, you can find the back episodes of our podcast on Apple Podcasts. And you can also find us on our YouTube channel. Both of them are the Marketing Essentials team.
You can find us on the web at marketingessentialsteam.com. And if you subscribe through our website, you'll receive a weekly email and letting you know when each episode has been published. Also, you'll receive a link to subscriber-only content.
You can also find us on Facebook and our private Facebook group. Just search Little Rhody Marketing Support Group. It's a great place for other marketing professionals and business owners where we can share marketing advice, challenges, and general trends. Hope to see you there.